Sansa Stark. Where do I begin? It's no secret that she's my least favorite character in a Game of Thrones, but this video isn't intended to be a roast. So, Jesus, take the wheel and help me get through this without saying anything negative about her. As opposed to roasting Sansa, I'd like to speculate about her fate in Season 8. In preparation for the 8th and final season of Game of Thrones, I'd been watching the previous seasons to remind myself of things I might have forgot. While watching Season 1, I caught something that had previously escaped my notice. In a break from the books, the show took creative liberty with the death of Lady, Sansa's direwolf. The circumstances surrounding Lady's death were consistent with their novel counterparts. What's different in the show is what happens because of Lady's death. You guys know I think these book-to-show changes can have significance, so I find some of them worthy of discussion. In the books, what happens as a result of Lady's death? Well, not much. As we know, Sansa's refusal to tell the truth about the incident between Joffrey and Arya directly caused Lady's death. Cersei ordered Nymeria killed, but Nymeria couldn't be found, so Cersei decreed Lady be killed in Nymeria's stead. Ned kills Lady himself for fear the royal executioner would make Lady suffer. Also, this would give Ned custody of Lady's corpse, which he wanted, to prevent Cersei from making a pelt of Lady's skin. After Ned executes her, meaning Lady, the other direwolves sense it and mourn her. In fact, I believe in the books, once Lady's bones are delivered back to Winterfell and they're buried in the Likyard, is that how you say that word, Likyard? Once they're buried there, it's said that the direwolves stalk the graves, and I always thought that that was really interesting and kind of cool and shows just how connected they all are. Ned is a bit conflicted about having killed Lady, and Sansa is devastated and blames Arya rather than placing blame where it truly belonged, with herself and Cersei. And that's pretty much it for the books. Inversely, in the show, something far more significant occurs as the result of Lady's death. The aforementioned details still stand, with the addition of one thing. Only death can pay for life. The death of Lady woke Bran from his coma. In the books, we know the three-eyed crow guided Bran from his coma by teaching Bran to fly. The show, however, changed that and had the three-eyed crow visit Bran after he'd already woke from the coma. That's a major change to make, and I'm inclined to think a change of that magnitude was made for reasons beyond giving meaning to Lady's death. If that's all it was, it would be pretty damn ironic given the show's handling of the other direwolves in later seasons. To repeat myself, this change was made for a reason, and I have to wonder if that reason was to seal Sansa's fate. What does this mean? Well, we know the fates of the Stark siblings are linked to their direwolves in some way. For example, Jon's direwolf is named Ghost. Jon picked that name because of Ghost's appearance. His fate is connected to that name, though, because Jon died and was resurrected by Melisandre, rendering him a Fire White, which effectively means Jon's the living dead, or he is a ghost. So, what implication does Lady's death have on Sansa's fate? Well, because of the show's change, you could say Lady was sacrificed to save Bran. Additionally, because Lady died in Nymeria's place, she was sacrificed to save her sister. Therefore, it's possible that Sansa is fated to die by sacrificing herself for one of her siblings or both. As far as Bran goes, because the connection exists between he and Sansa on account of Lady's death waking Bran from the coma, you could say the door is open for Sansa to give her life for Bran's. In fact, that's the exact possibility I'm raising. And from a practical standpoint, in the Great War, given Bran's significance as the three-eyed raven, If need be, pretty much anyone should die if it means saving Bran. All the same, I don't know what it does for the story to have Sansa die for him because there's not really a connection between she and Bran. And what I mean by that is, yes, she had that moment where when Bran returned to Winterfell, she gave him this great big hug and she was overjoyed, and then they sat and talked by the weirwood tree. But seeing as Bran is this, I don't even know, creepy robot, monotone, whatever, it just all would feel so hollow and very one-sided. And I don't know, other than their interactions in season 7, oh, and maybe the Robert Baratheon arriving at Winterfell scene way back in season 1 in the show, I don't know that they ever share screen time apart from that. Season 7 is probably the most time they've ever spent together on screen, and I'm not even sure in the show if we ever hear Sansa even think about Bran. Maybe we did, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. But the point I'm trying to make is, again, their connection is just so hollow. And the door is open on account of Lady, but it would just all feel so benign because of the lack of established connection between Bran and Sansa. From the standpoint of the plot, it would make more sense for Sansa to sacrifice herself for her other sibling, Arya. Sansa sacrificing herself to save Arya would bring their relationship dynamic full circle. In the beginning of the story, it starts out very hostile and antagonistic. The show portrays this as a two-way street, but in the books, it's far more one-sided, at least in my interpretation, because I read it as what Arya did was usually a direct response to Sansa's bullying, because Sansa was really effing nasty to her. In fact, Sansa's cruelty towards Arya is one of the reasons I have so much contempt for Sansa's character. She allows her best friend Jane Poole to mercilessly bully and mock Arya's looks, calling her a horse face and actually neighing like a horse whenever she sees Arya. Sansa would also use Jane to laugh at Arya when social decorum prevented Sansa from being able to laugh herself. After Lady died, Sansa tells Arya she wished it was Arya who died and not her wolf. Before Sansa ratted Ned out to Cersei, willingly, for making arrangements to smuggle them out of the city, Arya held Sansa's arm to comfort her, emphasizing that they'll get to see their brothers and Winterfell family again once they return home. Sansa screams at Arya that she ought to marry Hodor because Arya is just as stupid, ugly, and hairy. Things only improved once they got separated and Arya fled the capital. In the show, we saw them feud once more when they reunite, though admittedly Arya was the main antagonist this time. And I have to say, I've seen Arya get a lot of crap for that, but my interpretation was Arya was using the concept that Syrio taught her, which was really see what you're looking at. Don't just look at it, see it. I can't remember his exact words, but I believe that's what she was doing, and she thought Sansa was trying to steal Jon's crown in his absence, and that wasn't going to happen on her watch. An idea that Arya wasn't entirely wrong about, because when Littlefinger proposed Sansa do it, as opposed to jumping to Jon's defense and unequivocally shutting the idea down, Sansa simply indirectly implies she doesn't want to do it. And if you rewatch that scene, it's almost like you can tell she wants to, and she's trying to talk herself out of doing it and not give in to her heart's desire, but whatever. And then in that very same scene where she's indirectly implying she doesn't want to betray Jon, she chooses to believe the worst in Arya and agrees with Littlefinger that Arya the Faceless Man has returned to expose Sansa's betrayals and kill her so she could become Lady of Winterfell. Which makes no sense because just moments ago in that scene, Sansa herself said Arya would only harm her if she thought Sansa was gonna betray Jon. And excuse me, dum-dum, but when has Arya ever wanted to be lady of anything? That fate is the one thing in life Arya detested most, and she was quite vocal about it. So that conclusion on Sansa's part just makes no sense. But Sansa took it to the bank, though, because she was planning to kill Arya to thwart the attempted coup and secure her position as Lady of Winterfell. That trial really was going to be her killing Arya. The only reason she didn't was because Sansa went to Bran in a deleted scene at the last moment and asked for his help in verifying her ideas. Which, it also annoys me that Bran just didn't out Littlefinger right away and he let it get so bad that his sisters were about to kill each other. Don't know why this show chose to have him do that, but I digress. So, to those who wanted to give Sansa credit for pulling one over on Littlefinger in the trial, she didn't. She came this close to killing her sister on some bullshit, which, if you ask me, also called into question her true intent towards usurping Jon. Sansa said it herself. Arya would only kill her if she betrayed Jon. If Sansa wasn't going to do that, then she had nothing to fear from Arya. Yet she was going to have Arya killed anyway. 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 5, guys, but whatever. And if I could say something else on that subject about Sansa's true intentions towards Jon. In season 7, we got that really creepy moment between Bran and Sansa where Bran tells her how beautiful she looked on her wedding night. And I found that to be kind of horrible because that was probably the worst night of Sansa's life given what happened to her after the wedding. So for Bran to bring that up seemed odd, but I think it was a low-key way for him to let Sansa know that he watches things. And he sees things that happen in front of the weirwood tree. So that wouldn't only include her wedding, it would have also included her conversations with Littlefinger. And I'm pretty sure that Bran probably was watching one of those because Sansa and Littlefinger are talking and Sansa walks away from him and Littlefinger kind of watches her go. And then there's this moment where he turns around and pauses and stares at the weirwood tree like he can feel that it's watching, and I just think that that's a dead giveaway that Bran absolutely was watching in that moment. And so I think Bran telling her about how she looked on her wedding night or wedding day during the ceremony, whatever, that was his way of warning her, I know that you could be up to something, don't do it, I'm watching you, which is definitely a more subtle approach than Arya took by threatening Sansa with a dagger, but I think Bran sensed the same thing in Sansa. Now, I didn't intend to get into as much of that as I did, but it illustrates how much stronger the connection is between Sansa and Arya than it is between Sansa and Bran. So Sansa sacrificing herself would not only bring all of that stuff we talked about full circle, but the sacrifice wouldn't feel as benign. That's like the word of the day in this video. Drink every time I say the word benign, but don't drive because I say it a lot. If the show wanted to move with authority, they could choose door number 3 and have Sansa sacrifice herself for both Bran and Arya. Even the harshest Sansa critics, like myself, would be moved by that. If you wanted to talk about bringing things full circle, this would definitely do it. It would mirror Lady's sacrifice most closely because Lady's death was connected to both Bran and Arya. Also, Sansa started the story by putting herself before her family every chance she got, always to her family's detriment. To end the story by having her put her family before herself to her own detriment by committing the ultimate act of selflessness would be a very beautiful and cyclical ending to the character of Sansa Stark, in my opinion. It would certainly deliver viewers a dose of that bittersweet feeling George R. R. Martin has promised us. What would that sacrifice look like? I am going to leave that up to the listener's interpretation. I had an idea. I had it written down in my notes. However, when I went over it, I just felt like it really watered this whole theory down and made it a bit too tinfoil-esque for my liking. While I do think this theory is quite solid because of all the Stark siblings' connections to their direwolves, I understand that there are people out there who would disagree because they think that Sansa will live to the end and she could quite possibly be the person who sits the Iron Throne, and that's totally fine. Regardless, because of precedent, I think this theory is valid, and I don't want to mess that up with my tinfoil suspicions, so you can comment below what you guys think the sacrifice could look like if you even agree with this theory. Definitely be sure to let me know that too, because as you guys know, I'm always more intrigued by your opinions. If you liked this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and join the channel if you have not already. I am Ashley of Noth. Thank you for watching. P.S. If the Hound dies, I'm rioting.